bullshit excuses were of letting this woman get away with murder. A woman who had every single thing to gain, who gained everything. The idea that Charlie or Donna was the mastermind is ludicrous and ridiculous because Wendy got them to do what she wanted them to do. And as of this moment, she is walking free, scot-free, gotten away with murder, raising the boys whose father she killed for her own convenience so she could raise them the way she wanted, so she could raise them where she wanted, so she didn't have to worry about giving the money back. All the money. She didn't have to worry about Dan's litigious coming after her for the things that she did, the fraud that she committed, which I have no doubt that she did. Why? Because she fucking paid somebody to murder the man. In my opinion.
That's my opinion!
And it was sad.
catlovedreamingpeach.com.
Hey, sweet peaches, how are you? I know it's kind of hard to focus on a video while I'm driving and the lighting is weird and the car is loud, but anyway, I have thoughts and I have some errands to run, so I thought I would just turn on the camera and start recording. catlovedreamingpeach.com and see if I get anything that's worth sharing. So I watched Mentor Lawyer's videos that he did with some interviews of Detective Isom. You know, I've seen a lot of people who've said things like Isom was totally duped by Wendy. He fell for everything that she said. He never suspected her. And I thought that he was on to her when she talked about taking Trescott as a shortcut. He questioned that, and there were other things that made me think that he didn't think she was totally innocent. However, he never really seemed to pursue her. At least it didn't seem from what I've been able to discern that he truly pursued her. Not pursued her in any meaningful way that resulted in any meaningful outcomes. And one of the things that he was very clear about in his interview with Mentor Lawyer was that he really wanted to make sure that they were 100% able to clear Jeffrey Lacasse, yet it didn't appear as if he had the same due diligence in making sure Wendy wasn't involved. And there was evidence that she was. And then, you know, there was the phone call that he made to her after the weekend where she pretended that it was a bad connection and then she hung up on him. I truly believe Wendy was involved and that there's ample evidence of that. Just drove by a street with Wendy in the name. I really don't know how this driving video is going to come out because I keep stopping and starting. But anyway, I'm at a red light at the moment. So I just feel that if Wendy's not arrested soon, she's going to flee. So I've been focused so much on my own life, working for clients. Like I said, I made a video that I haven't shared yet. I haven't fully edited, where I'm talking about my own personal life. I was just watching a video of someone talking about Wendy, and she started to talk about herself personally, and I started to feel annoyed. And then I was like, you know what? I don't follow this person. I don't really like her personality. I actually disagree with her on a lot of things. So I was like, that's probably why I'm not interested in her personal shit, because I was just listening to her to get a different perspective. But anyway, that's also why I would share it for you know, Patreon and YouTube members, because it's the kind of video that I feel like if you're not there specifically because you like my style and you want to know more about me, then you probably wouldn't care about it anyway. And it's also personal, so there's that. So I do have a lot of thoughts to share about it. I was watching a bunch of stuff, and then I started to feel annoyed at myself for being so invested in a stranger getting arrested and feeling frustrated at the justice system and all of the excuses that have allowed this woman to continue to walk free, and how it went from Donna getting convicted and there being so much momentum, it seemed. Momentum at the idea that she would actually get arrested and that justice will actually happen for Dan Markel, and that all of the people involved in the plot to hire and murder this man will be held accountable and brought to justice, and that just because you're a wealthy white person who might have some political and or financial connections, that it doesn't mean that you can just get away with murder. And the fact that, it's already been a couple of weeks. I mean, I get it, they probably need time to get prepared for another trial, and they've got to figure out where the kids are going to go, and let's see, I'm coming to the store. And they probably need to, wrap up the loose ends. Some people said, they're not going to arrest Wendy until Donna's sentencing. But it's like, first they said they're not going to arrest her until Donna's conviction. It's like, how many fucking things are you going to wait for? This bitch is going to escape. She is going to flee. That's my biggest concern at this point. My biggest thought is that Wendy Adelson is going to flee. She is going to escape. She's going to say, you know what? I have made it this far for this long. I have gotten away with murder up to this point. This lighting is crazy. She's gotten away with murder this long. Maybe it's time for her to stop. Oh my God, that guy is buff. The buffest motherfucker I've ever seen. Okay, so let me see if I can get this. These. Oh, it was actually kind of terrifying looking. So muscular, it was scary. Alright, I'm gonna return these belts that I got from my son that he does not need. Now I'm in the parking lot. So anyway, as I was talking about Detective Isom, now that I've seen those videos, I do think that he was duped. I do think that either he believed her, or he was like, maybe somebody told him. We're not pursuing that. Supposedly Willie Meggs, it was like, seemed like no matter how much evidence they brought to him, he was like, not enough. And that he was holding the level of evidence to a standard that he was making up that was beyond what the law requires. Again, to me, it does sound like he was doing favors for people who were his friends, and or he was in their pocket. And shoot, it seemed like it popped open. well as Jack Campbell. I mean, the fact is that I hear people who were very gung-ho about Wendy getting arrested now saying, like, I don't know, if she doesn't get arrested soon, it seems like they're just never going to arrest her. And I just find it to be upsetting. Let me go do my errand now. So, I wanted to talk a little bit more. I need to eat something, though. Got some leftover salad from yesterday. Turning a little orange. All right, let's see. What can I say? Let me sit back in my chair. So I guess it's a little bit of a disjointed video because, like I said, I was driving to the store. Just sharing some thoughts. I don't know every single detail about the case. I think I knew more details before, but a lot of time has passed. I had previously said back in 2024, in the beginning of 2024, I had said if Wendy is not arrested by December 2024, I will have lost all hope. And then I really just stopped paying attention. I didn't pay attention too much to Donna's mishaps the first time around. I do know that Daniel Rashbaum screwed her over. She ended up having to wait a whole nother year for her guilty verdict trial. And there were a few more nuggets that came out against Wendy in Donna's trial, and that led me to believe and have some renewed hope that this B was going to be arrested and finally held accountable for her part in conspiring to hire someone to kill her ex-husband, which I believe wholeheartedly is what happened. And now, let's see, when did Donna get convicted? Donna Adelson was convicted on September 4th, 2025 by a jury in Leon County, Florida on charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation of murder for her role in the 2014 contract killing of her ex-son-in-law, law professor Dan Markel. Her sentencing is scheduled for a later date, which has not occurred yet. So September 4th, it's Saturday, September 20th now, so it has been 16 days. It's almost 3 weeks. So, you know, ultimately in the grand scheme of things, no, it's not the hugest amount of time. And, you know, there's still a chance that Wendy's going to be arrested. However, I am beginning to believe that she's going to flee. That there has to be a part of her that realizes that she's gotten away with murder for this long and that the walls are closing in. She has to have some inkling that she's not going to get away with this forever, right? Unless she flees. I feel, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to read. Like this incense. Make a wish for the bish to get arrested. So, what are the chances that that they've got eyes on Wendy if she were to buy a flight ticket? Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to read over my computer. Over my phone. Looking at my computer. Okay, so because her family has demonstrated a pattern of attempting to flee once criminal charges are imminent, such as in 2023, Wendy's mother, for example, Donna Adelson, tried to flee. She was attempting to board a one-way flight to Vietnam, in a country that does not have extradition treaty. So how could law enforcement track if Wendy Adelson buys a flight ticket if she were to? So this says, I'm reading over here, law enforcement can track if Wendy buys a flight ticket primarily through access to airline travel data sold by airlines via a data broker called the Airlines Reporting Corporation, which collects detailed travel information, including passenger names, flight itineraries, payment methods. This data is aggregated into a database known as the Travel Intelligence Program, TIP, okay, which contains over 1 billion records spanning years of past and future travel. The CBP, Federal Agency, Customs and Border Protections, and Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, have contracts to access this database through TIP. Law enforcement can perform targeted searches by a person's name, credit card number, or airline to find flight purchases and travel patterns. It might not appear if they buy it directly. Let's see. So what are the chances that she'll be able to flee if she buys a flight ticket? So it says law enforcement agencies frequently have real-time or near real-time access to flight ticket purchase data through databases such as the TIP and passenger name record, PNR systems. This enables them to detect when an individual like Wendy Adelson purchases a flight ticket before the person boards the flight. What if she goes to the airport? What if she buys the flight ticket right at the airport and buys it right before boarding? So last minute ticket purchases done directly at the airport can sometimes bypass real-time alerts from travel agent databases that primarily capture online and agency bookings. However, airports have security protocols requiring identification and ticket verification prior to boarding, often tied to passenger name records, PNRs, captured in government and airline systems. Law enforcement working with airport security may monitor passenger lists, check IDs against watch lists or investigation targets, and conduct physical surveillance at the departure gate. If authorities are already aware of a focused investigation or potential travel attempt, airport security and police can place holds or intercept individuals on suspicion even when tickets are bought last minute. Practical risks include limited time for law enforcement to act between ticket purchase and boarding, but enhanced surveillance and cooperation at the airport can still pose significant challenges to undetected departures. Thus, while last-minute airport purchase tickets can reduce the chance of early detection by travel intelligence systems, they do not guarantee freedom from law enforcement interception if the case is under active surveillance or investigation. So, those are my thoughts, that either her best bet is to get on a private jet. Your best bet is a private jet, and I'm leaving on a jet plane, and I'm never coming back again, motherfucker. You know? I mean, that's one option. Or she can just continue to take her chances, believing that they will... the state is not going to arrest me. And she might be right. You may be wrong. Oh, I may be crazy. Oh, but it just may be a fucking lunatic murderer who's getting away with it. You don't have to fight. You don't have to save me. You may be wrong. Oh, yeah, but you may be right. You may be wrong, but you may be right. You may be right. Do you think we're right? Do you think that Wendy is going to get arrested? Do you think that the reverberation of the residual protection of her money and her status and whoever her daddy and her, you know, whoever was her godfather, or whatever the bullshit excuses were of letting this woman get away with murder, a woman who had every single thing to gain, who gained everything, The idea that Charlie or Donna was the mastermind is ludicrous and ridiculous because Wendy got them to do what she wanted them to do. And as of this moment, she is walking free, scot-free, gotten away with murder, raising the boys whose father she killed for her own convenience so she could raise them the way she wanted, so she could raise them where she wanted, so she didn't have to worry about giving the money back. All the money. She didn't have to worry about Dan's litigious coming after her for the things that she did, the fraud that she committed, which I have no doubt that she did. Why? Because she fucking paid somebody to murder the man. In my opinion.
That's my opinion!
And it was sad to listen to Detective Isom, who I think, he seems like a good guy. He seems like a good person. I don't think that he was malicious in his letting Wendy slip through his fingers thing. Maybe he was pressured to let it go. Maybe he just happened to be the perfect patsy that just fell for her BS. And he said in that interview with Mentor Lawyer that he definitely considered her a suspect. And that he claimed that he told her attorney that when he tried to call back, and she was like, "Carry you." And then he called back. He called her. Well, I guess when he tried to call back, he was directed to like, "Oh no, now you need to talk to the lawyer." And then when he called back and he tells the lawyer,
I haven't been to...
It's looking like she's a suspect. He never hears back from the lawyer and he never follows up. You think the woman is a suspect, but you never follow up. Okie dokie. That don't make no kind of fucking sense. That don't make sense unless you were directed to, or some other important takeaways that I got from that interview with Mentor Lawyer and Detective Craig Isom. I don't think that Isom to this day takes Jeffrey Lacasse seriously. For some bizarre reason, he was saying that he had to convince Jeffrey to speak. However, Jeff's interviews show the exact opposite, that he in fact came 3 separate times and that he had information that the cops didn't even seem interested in. The first interview, when he was being recorded, they didn't even have his face on the screen. That shows you, to me, how absolutely little they cared about what he had to say, how little they thought that it mattered, and how little credence they gave to the things that he brought to them. Because why would you not even film the man's face as you're recording him unless you don't give a fuck? And then Isom actually said as well that, I'm paraphrasing, but he doesn't seem to believe Jeffrey Lacasse's opinion that Wendy was trying to frame him. He's like, yeah, so many moving parts. It would have been so hard to do. It's like, yeah, so many moving parts, but both times, the first failed attempt and then the second actual shooting fell on days where Jeffrey was supposed to be going out of town and like driving by nearby where Dan's house was. And that just seemed kind of like a weird coincidence. And the car that they rented the first time looked a lot like his car. Another weird coincidence. And then Wendy had been plying her friend Jane with lies about how jealous Jeff was. So Jane ended up suggesting that Jeff could have been a suspect, but it was actually Wendy who had just spent 2 hours, like a couple days before, going on and on and on and emotionally vomiting out all these things, even though she supposedly had laryngitis that week and she couldn't speak, but she couldn't speak to Jeff and she couldn't see Jeff, even though she was probably actually doing that because she was packing and she didn't want him to see, even though he had already saw her taking down the pictures that the kids put on the wall. So he did see that part. And the way she insisted that they watch the TV on the broken TV in the living room and would not let them go into the back in the bedroom to see the regular TV, which was probably because there was a bunch of boxes and shit up in that bedroom that she didn't want him to see. Again, my opinion, not just my opinion, other people believe that too, but so I've seen a lot of comments on the interview on Mentor Lawyer's page of people believing that Isom was just ineffective or paid off or duped or fooled by her or, you know, gaga over her blue eyes, those fake blue contacts, or whatever the case is. Somebody even said, if Wendy's arrested, is he going to be a defense witness? Because he sure seems to be trying to make excuses for why Wendy ain't the one. But I think that what he's doing is, even though he said he did think she was a suspect, or he thought that it was leaning that way and he didn't follow up, I think that he's trying to cover his ass. He's trying to make excuses for why he didn't pursue her more. A couple of other people mentioned in the comments of that video, do you think this is another bump attempt? That by having this interview that maybe Wendy will run. Maybe she'll run to get a flight ticket, or who knows. But, and then other people said comments like, does this mean that it's over? Because why would he be having an interview if they were planning on arresting her? That seems weird. I mean, as far as I know, Mentor Lawyer doesn't have anything to do with the Tallahassee Police Department. So for it to be another bump would be kind of ridiculous because he's not in law enforcement. And Detective Isom is retired, so he's no longer on the case. He's also no longer, part of it. Would the cops create... it just doesn't make sense to think that this random YouTube channel would have an interview and that the law enforcement would somehow be involved in this as a bump. I mean, and then if you were to listen to what Detective Isom says, yes, he did say that he had told her attorney that she, was leaning that way, that she was a suspect, but a lot of the other stuff he said could be taken either way, does he think she's involved? I don't know. It didn't really, it seemed very inconclusive. So I just wanted to add those additional thoughts that I had remembered about the interview. And I'd like to think that Georgia Kappelman has a passion for justice and believes that justice will not be truly served until and when Wendy's arrested and convicted and held accountable. But she said herself, she's got other cases going on. She has other things to do. I'm sure she's passionate about other things. She did say that this is a part of her DNA now that she's done 4 cases. And again, I mentioned previously, just popping in to say, actually, Georgia Kappelman was the prosecutor for Sigfredo Garcia, Luis Rivera, 2 trials for Katie McBanoa, Charlie Adelson, and Donna Adelson. So she's done 6 trials already. Wendy will make 7. Lucky number 7. 7 and done. Fuck Harvey. I don't give a fuck about Harvey at this point. I care about Wendy. And again, I mentioned previously, Sarah Catherine Dugan may be up for judgeship. Maybe she can't be on it. Maybe they need to find out who's going to be the second chair. There's probably all these things going on behind the scenes. They're taking care of other cases. They're figuring out this and that and the other thing. Or we could be fucking spinning in a hamster wheel, making up all this shit, and they could be literally doing nothing. For all we know, that bitch is free. She's walking free. She's gonna get a flight ticket. She's gonna go on vacation. Ain't nobody gonna show up and fucking arrest that bitch. She's gonna go. She's gonna come back. She's gonna be fine. Free as a bird. A fucking murderer bird. I don't know. I'm pissed. I'm annoyed. I got my own life to deal with. I got my own therapy to take care of. I got my own trauma to heal from. As I mentioned already a few times in this video, I did do a long video that I need to get into editing it, because some of the healing comes from the talking, and then a lot of the healing comes in the editing process, where I listen to what I said and really take it home and apply it and recognize it and really digest it. Like I've said, sharing, talking is a completely different mind state than receiving, listening. So,
catlovedreamingpeach.com.
Murderer bird. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to know. I can't find anything online about when he retired, but I think he's been retired for a few years now. You know, I had commented in that video, several comments actually, and I said, you know, he seems kind of checked out about it. It seems like he's pretty fuzzy on some of the details. I got the impression that he was duped by her, and he's either still duped by her and he just believes that she really wasn't that involved, or he realizes that he was duped, but he's too, I don't know, fill in the blank, to admit it. I don't know if he's too proud to admit it. I don't know if he's just too sheepish to admit it. I don't know if he just doesn't really get it, and so he can't admit what he doesn't know. I don't know if he's embarrassed. I don't know if he was on the take, or if somebody had influenced him or intimidated him or pressured him and he doesn't want to say so. I don't know if he just genuinely didn't take it that seriously. I don't know. I mean, even when in the interview, he was kind of like, as he's driving there, you know, so he was explaining that, you know, he would be on call for 12-hour stints, and it happened around between 11:50 and 11:55, I think, is when they narrowed it down to AM, that Dan was actually shot. And he said that he was supposed to start his call shift at noon, and he was having lunch with his wife, and he got the call, and he was like, dang, I'm not even on call yet, and something's already happening. And as he's heading over, he didn't know if he was going to be, you know, who the lead investigator was going to be. And then he gets there, and he said there had already been a dozen people or more who'd already shown up before him, and Dan Markel was already gone, not, you know, off to the hospital. And he said that Wendy it was her name on the utilities bill. It was only her name. At that point, they assumed that she lived there and that she was either the wife or the partner, because she had never changed her name to Markel when they got married. And so he just assumes that she lives there and that she might be the partner, the current wife or whatever. And, you know, whenever it's a spouse is murdered, the number one suspect is always the spouse. So it was very bizarre that he just did not seem to have suspicions as he interviewed her. And so, but before that, he said, so somebody told him to head over. They found her at Mosaic. They found her car there. So, and they think that's probably where she was. Head on over. And now he's like, oh, am I the lead investigator on this? And the guy was like, at this point, you have to ask.
Is that more evidence of him being checked out?
However, that gave me the feeling of like, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't really that into it. Maybe at that point in his career, he was winding down. He wasn't really into taking on a big case like this. I don't know. I'm speculating. Pure speculation warning. popping in on Sunday to make some edits. Let me turn down my brightness. So I wanted to say a few more things about Detective Isom's interview with mentor lawyer and how he, why don't you be able to read it? How he picked up Wendy from Mosaic Restaurant. And so Wendy had said in the police interview that she had just had a delicious lunch. And that lady I was watching that I said I didn't like, I had no interest in her personal crap, she, for some reason, believes that Wendy didn't eat lunch and that Wendy was lying about that. But based on the comments that people were leaving that she was reading, it seems like she was mistaken, that Wendy did have the delicious lunch, which means that right after she knew that Dan was shot, allegedly, in my opinion, she was able to have a delicious lunch. The reason that the lady said she thinks Wendy was lying was because she thought that Detective Isom got to Wendy at 1:15, but other people were saying no, he got there at 2:15. So that I'm not clear about, but well, the AI quick search says 1:30 he arrived there. So he said that he got there and he saw her at the table with her two friends, and he asked her if he could speak to her, and she got up and they went. He said he thought, what was out of earshot, maybe 10 or 15 feet away, and he told her, your children are fine, but there's something that's happened. I need you to come with me to the station so we can discuss it. And that he said that, I'm paraphrasing, but he said it seemed like strange or unusual that she walked away from him and went over to the table to speak to the women and say, something's happened, he won't tell me, but he wants to take me to the station to discuss it. And he said he found that a little unusual. So then she goes with him. So in the last trial, Donna's trial, Wendy, I believe, lied on the stand when she testified that Detective Isom told her that Danny was shot while they were in the vehicle on the way to in the police car on the way to the police station, and that's a lie. And the reason that I believe she told the lie is because she had said, I think she might have said it in the police interview that was recorded to Detective Isom, I couldn't tell by the way you were talking to me in the car if I was a suspect. However, why would she be a suspect? Why would she be thinking she's a suspect of the shooting if she didn't know about the shooting? Because she did know about the shooting. Because she was the one who did it. Who paid for the hit. One of the conspirators, in my opinion. So she lied in Donna's trial, saying that he did tell her in the car. So in this interview, what Detective Craig Isom, told mentor lawyer, I think mentor lawyer's name is James, said, no, I didn't tell her that he was shot in the car, but he did tell her something had happened to Danny, but he didn't tell her what. Then the police interview, you see her sitting in the room being recorded, and she's on her phone and she's by herself and she's listening to a voicemail. And then when Detective Isom comes into the police interview room, she says, I just got a voicemail. I just listened to a voicemail. And then she's like, oh, I don't know if I should. And he said, what did it say? And I think she plays it, and it was from her realtor who was telling her there was a shooting on Trescott. And then he tells her it was Danny. And then she bursts into fake tears, fake no tears. Bullshit. So she's a liar. She's changed her story about turning on to Trescott 5 times at least. She said she didn't turn, and she said she did, but the tape was right there. Then she says she did go down, and she turns around, and then I think then she again said she didn't go down there, and she said she thought it was a fallen tree, even though there's been testimony that the tape said crime scene, not caution. And also there was a detective who had testified that it was her car was the only car that had this unusual reaction where she came in and then she just turned around immediately and left. He said other people, most people, when they come upon a roadblock, they pause, they hesitate. He said you can almost see their brain thinking, like trying to recalculate their route. And there's always this hesitation, and then they kind of like, okay, and then they get going. But with her, it was just boom, boom. Whoops, I saw what I needed, I'm out of here. Kind of deal. He didn't say that, I'm ad-libbing. So the other things that Detective Isom did clarify was that he did not tell her in the car that Danny was shot. And also, that restaurant Mosaic is no longer there, but apparently it was on the nice side. And a lot of people are saying, oh, she looked like shit, she looked like shit. I mean, to me, she was just wearing t-shirt and shorts and her hair was pulled back. She did look like she was cleaning up or something, but I don't think she looked like shit. She just looked extremely casual, and I guess compared to how she normally presented herself, that was not how she normally presented herself. So it was unusual. And also what was bizarre is that she claimed that she was in such a rush, she didn't even have time to shower, but yet she left her house around noon for lunch at 1. Lunch was like 15 minutes away from where she was, and she decided to drive way the fuck down, out of her way, to drive by the crime scene, her ex-husband's house, and then go get bourbon for a party. She didn't even need to get it until later that day after lunch. I don't even know if the party was that night, but she didn't have to do that before lunch. She didn't have to go way the fuck down there because there was a liquor store right in the same strip where the restaurant she was going to lunch was. It didn't make any sense unless you look at it from the point of view that she was trying to fabricate a weak-ass alibi so she could drive by the scene of the crime and come up with some bullshit excuse for why you had time to drive by the scene of the crime an hour within Danny getting shot, but you didn't have time to take a shower to get ready to go to the lunch. Oh, and this was another thing. In that interview with Detective Isom, the only time she gave an interview, he said something about last minute lunch. And she said, last minute? And from the text messages, it seemed like it was a last minute lunch that she had scheduled, like after the Geek Squad TV repair guy left. She scheduled this lunch. So she schedules the lunch within like an hour and a half of when she supposedly has to be there, and also had just supposedly eaten breakfast, and then doesn't have time to shower, but has time to drive way the fuck out of her way, 5 minutes out of her way, to drive by the scene of the crime in an owl t-shirt, which was an ode to Louis Rivera's post the night before on Instagram, where he was in the parking lot of the hotel, the motel where they were staying, specifically in Tallahassee, to do the murder. And he posts a picture of an owl, which to me is a signal, who's in town, motherfucker? And then supposedly, according to him, Katie McBadden was like, take that fucking shit down. And then she just happens to coinkadinkly be wearing an owl t-shirt. Like, I got the signal. And I believe a comment that I saw that, well, I think it's a combination. I have to sneeze. Achoo, 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 3 sneezes and bless me. And so I think it was a combination of, number one, she wanted to look casual. She wanted to look disheveled. She wanted to look the part of a distraught person, which would be harder to do, I guess, if she was showered and her hair was done and her makeup and she was all dressed nice. I guess it would look harder to look distraught. Although, I don't know, you can look distraught and be dressed nice. So I think that, you know, maybe there was she genuinely wearing that t-shirt because she just wanted it to be, because she thought this would be so funny little haha. She wanted to look disheveled. The fact that she made it a point to mention that she didn't shower, again, I think is like somebody said, they were going to do her, you know, gunshot residue testing on her hands. And they, in fact, did not let her go to the bathroom because they were like, wait. And she had to go to the bathroom for a while. And they wouldn't let her go because they wanted to get her hands tested before she went into the bathroom and washed her hands. And she even said, oh, I didn't even shower. I didn't wash my hands. Ha ha ha. So I think that it was part of the act. She was, and also I think it was because she was stressed. I think that, you know, the reality of this is going to happen. Is it going to happen? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And something I really never understood was like, why the fuck would she be giving him a hard time about taking the kids swimming? She knows he's going to be dead. So why not just pretend like it's fine? But another comment was very insightful, which was like, if she said yes, the possibility that he would have the kids with him, she probably didn't want to risk it. And I don't think that she was afraid that the children would get hurt. I think that she was afraid that what had happened supposedly the first time, where they were like, I'm not fucking killing, because I think that what they said was that she was there with her kids and they were like, I'm not doing this in front of nobody's kids. So I think that her fear would be not that her kids were going to get killed or hurt or witness something bad, but that she knew if he picks up those kids to go swimming, that they're not going to do it. They're going to go back to Miami without doing it again. And now we know that his lawyer, Stephen Webster, was going that day to file the motions against her for committing fraud and for stealing and, you know, all the things that he was going to try to push to get her disbarred and stuff. And that was the deadline. So in order for him to not get that shit filed and to go forward with it, it was like, this date is the date. It has to happen today. And plus he's going out of town. And she'd already been preparing. She'd been packing. She couldn't undo that. It was like, fuck, it's now or never. So now it makes more sense to me why she was like, no, you can't take them, because she wanted to make damn sure that he was by himself so that it was going to happen. And I really, really wonder, and I wish we would find out, if there was any communication between Wendy and, you know, was she just strictly communicating with Charlie and telling Charlie, make sure they do it, make sure they do it, and then he was telling Katie, and then Katie was telling Sigfredo. Like, that's the stuff that I really wish would come out. And again, I'm hoping that when she gets arrested, that will all come out. But I'm also hoping at this point is that Charlie has rotted away enough in jail for the last 2 years, realizing that this is his life now, that he's going to finally talk. Because there's no doubt in my mind that he has a wealth of information against Wendy that could put Wendy away forever. And I feel like at this point, knowing how little she cared about him and how quickly she turned on him and how she never even once asked about how he was doing. And not only did she not ask about how he was doing, but she put down this cold-hearted fucking devil, evil fucking like, don't talk to me about this and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm not guilty and I'm not, you know, I'm not talking about this with you. I mean, if he's still trying to get his appeal and he thinks that, you know, telling all that stuff is going to ruin his chances of an appeal, then he probably won't However, I don't know. You know, there's that reality that in order for him to admit to some things, you know, he might have to accept that he's never getting out of prison. You can't see it. It's too bright. Let's see if I can. Now it's dark. And I can turn. Now that I'm basically done with this edition, oh, there, I think you can see that a little better. You can see the background a little better if I turn that down. And then I can turn my light up. So those are my additional thoughts about Wendy and the things that Detective Isom said and the things that I remember and the thoughts that I have. And I really do truly believe that there will not be true justice for Dan Markel and his family until Wendy is arrested and gets convicted and he's in prison along with the rest of the people. And I have some sympathy for Luis Rivera because he was honest, and yeah, he was a bad guy and stuff like that, but you know, he was involved in like gang life because he was born into that life, and he was involved in that as a young kid. And a lot of times people don't have any other opportunity. And it seemed like even though he was a part of that lifestyle, and I'm sure he did things that were crimes and he probably hurt people and things like that, but he was honest. You know, the fact that he didn't even want to kill Dan Markel, he was like, let's just steal the money from the lady. You know, let's just forget the killing. Let's just get the money. That's what we want, the money. So let's not kill a man. And he also said he thought it was stupid to kill a guy for some kids. Like, you know, he seemed like he had a heart, you know, and that he didn't want to kill he didn't want to kill the guy. He didn't want to kill him in front of the kids. And he thought it would be better just to rob the money, which, you know, really would have been better. Like, just steal the money. But unfortunately, they went through with it. And, you know, it's tragic that that man is dead. And his children never got to know him really, and that whatever good, fun, loving memories of him they had were erased and replaced with, I'm certain, stories of his abuse and how he mistreated Wendy. And I have no doubt that she's been plying them with lies about how abusive and narcissistic and aggressive and all these things that how controlling he was and all that stuff, and what a monster he was, so that they feel good about the fact that he's dead. And hopefully the truth will eventually come out and they'll learn who he really was. And that Georgia Kappelman and Sarah Catherine Dugan and Jack Campbell and whoever else is involved in Child Protective Services and all that they will be able to arrange that those children will go with the Markels to Canada once Wendy is arrested, so that they can get a new start. And, you know, I'm sure that they have their friends in their lives, but at the same time, I think she's moved them a couple of times, and there has got to be, like, my kids are the same ages, so, you know, yeah, it's true that not a lot of kids those ages are watching true crime stuff, but people like me who watch it and then would tell them, and then, you know, if it's like part of their actual lives, like, you know, my kids know about it because I'm watching about it, but her kids are going to know about it because it's literally their lives, their grandma, their uncle, their dad, their mom. Like, it's not as if they can skirt through life not aware of these things. So the chances of them learning the truth and being willing psychologically and mentally to accept it and to maybe them going off to Canada would be really hard because, if they're angry and they have resentment and they have built up hatred for these people, that might not be the best thing. But at the same time, their Uncle Rob has been estranged from the family and probably was talked bad about. I mean, the fact is that they're minors and someone in the family is going to have to take them. So hopefully it will be whatever's in their best interest. And, having your father murdered by your mother and your uncle and your grandmother and your grandfather is really a hard knock life. And it's going to take a lifetime of healing for them. But whatever the case is, pressure, intimidation, checked out, didn't really care. Oh, one thing I had commented was like he had a really kind of like shrug attitude going on, kind of like, meh. I called her back and they never responded. Alrighty, like somebody said in a comment, they made damn sure to prove that Jeff Lacasse could be excluded 100%, but he did not do that for Wendy. He let her slip off to Miami. Very weird, very bizarre, and I'd like to believe that she's going to get arrested and that justice will be served, but I have learned that justice is not justice. Not everybody gets held to the same standard. Certain people do get away with murder. And there's a double standard that exists in our justice system. And that despite the fact that there's no statute of limitations on murder, the fact is that the longer you let it go, the further away it gets, the more people have forgotten details, people die, evidence fades away, things stop being able to be found, records get deleted, companies shut down, all of these things that happen, people move away.
Restaurants close, memories fade.
It gets harder and harder to prove the facts and the evidence of something that happened a dozen years ago.
People forget.
And I just read this quote. Supposedly, William E. Gladstone, former British statesman and prime minister in the late 1800s, famously said, quote, "Justice delayed is justice denied," end quote. And at this point, the fact that, so here's saying that if a legal matter takes too long to be resolved, the justice provided is meaningless or ineffective, and therefore it's equivalent to receiving no justice at all. Delays can erode the value of the legal outcome, harm victims, and compromise the rights of both the injured party and the accused. Loss of effectiveness, harm to the victims. Prolonged delays mean victims don't get timely redressal and the suffering continues. For example, these boys being raised by the murderer of their father, the murderers of their father, their mother, their grandmother, their grandfather, their uncle, all had the pleasure of raising these boys and poisoning and brainwashing their minds against the man that loved them that they had murdered. And that bitch is still raising those boys to this day. Brainwashing them. God knows what she's told them and if they will ever be able to face the truth. And if they face the truth of fucking trauma, either way, the trauma that they have endured. Erosion of trust. Such delays can lead to frustration and a loss of faith in the integrity and impartiality of the legal system. That's what I'm saying. Compromised rights of the accused. That hasn't happened in this case. Degradation of evidence. Over time, memories fade, evidence can degrade, further complicating the pursuit of justice. historical roots. The concept is ancient with principles similar to appearing in the Magna Carta, which stated, "To no one we shall sell, to no one we will refuse or delay right or justice." And the loss of effectiveness is excessive delays diminish the excessive delays diminish the effectiveness of a just outcome, making the resolution. So it's not worthless, okay? If she gets in prison and she's in prison for the rest of her life, that will be some level of comfort, some level of justice and retribution for what she's done. However, she denied the grandchildren a relationship with those boys from the time they were 3 and 5 till now, which is like 14 and 16 years old. So she effectively stole the childhood of those grandsons from their grandparents who lost their son, and the trauma and the tragedy, the lifelong trauma and tragedy and pain of having to deal with that, and then lost their grandsons due to that evil family. So yes, they're still, it's not like, well, fuck it, let her go now. I don't think that at all. However, I do believe, I have said in other videos, even if they arrest that bitch and she spends the rest of her days in prison, it will never be justice enough, because of she got to raise those boys for almost their entire lives. God knows what she has said and done to them all these years. So I'm not going to go over like every detail again about why I thought she was guilty. I mean, I have done many videos in the last couple of years. I have a playlist.
Join me on Cat Love Dreaming Peach.
Justice for Dan Markel. And if you're interested in the previous things that I've done and the research I've done and the points that I brought up. But at this point, I feel that they have to be gearing up to arrest her. They absolutely have to. They have to, or I don't know. I just, if and when she gets arrested, I will have a renewed sense of justice. But I've definitely gotten to the point where I've stopped watching trials for the most part. I did get sucked into the Donna trial, and I was like, I'm not watching it. And I was like, okay, fine, fuck it, I'm going to watch it. And then I got really pulled in, and I am hoping that, I'm really, truly hoping that there will be some level of justice, and soon we will get the news that Wendi Adelson has been arrested, and we can gear up for another trial, and that she will spend the holidays in prison or in jail, because I don't think you go to prison until you're convicted. But those boys will hopefully be spending Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah with their grandparents in Canada and their aunt, and maybe they have some cousins over there. But they do have a little cousin, Charlie's son. I wonder if they have any contact with him. I doubt that they have any contact with their Uncle Rob's children, their cousins. I feel really bad for those kids. Like I said, if you're interested in how my personal experiences with my biological mother impacted me, and not being raised by her, and why that was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, actually. So like one of the most traumatic thing that I ever went through, which was being dumped like garbage by my biological mother, ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, because that allowed my mom to become my true and full and only mom. So thank you, biological evil woman, for discarding me like trash so that the woman who was meant to be my mom could raise me.
LoveDreamingPeach.com.
Yes, my mother is a black woman. She is Haitian. She was born in Haiti. Her first languages are French and Creole. She also speaks English. She also is fluent in
Spanish.
Yes, I was raised by a black woman. Lucky me. Haitian, French speaking, Creole speaking, Spanish speaking, English speaking, beautiful immigrant woman, powerful American citizen. Yes, a beautiful black woman raised me. Hallelujah. And thank God for her. I was raised by a multicultural, bilingual, trilingual, polyglot who gave me so much, enriched my life. Being raised by a beautiful black woman has been one of the biggest amazing gifts in my life. And being raised by a interracial couple. My dad was a white man, and they were pioneers in that way, and thank God for them. My whole life experience with them created the foundation that allowed me to become the person I am today. But anyway, if you wanted to hear more about that, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. But if you want to see those personal videos where I talk about my own life, my own traumas and stuff like that, you will need to either become a member on YouTube or join me on Patreon. You can become a member there. And I will see you soon. The other day I was walking in the park and I was talking a little bit about what's going on with me. Maybe I'll pop that at the end of this video so you can enjoy that. I also recorded the sunset tonight, and I'll pop that on as my outro. So thank you for being here. I have a lot of other thoughts to share about Wendi Adelson getting arrested and other cases and other topics. And I have been watching the fall of the democracy in this country and the rise of fascism and the terrifying bullshit that's all bringing. But for now, I am going to hang up this call, hang up this video, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to check out my playlists if you wanted to watch other things. And we out. Out and about. My son was saying that his foot hurt. We were walking around, but he didn't want to continue because he said his foot was hurting. And his brother, my other son, is playing frisbee right now. So what are you guys up to? Sunny. And there's a train. So I really got to get back into doing some kind of regular routine to get back in It's almost done. Somebody, thank you, following me, said you've been following me for quite a while and you finally decided to do some support. And you're praising some of my stretching videos. Train. But the fact is that I've gained so much weight since those videos, and I haven't stretched regularly in a couple of years. I really let it go. But, that's because I've been focused. Most of my video making has been focused on talking about topics that I care about, not stretching and dancing. And my apartment got filled with a lot more stuff as my kids grew. And I turned what used to be the room where I danced and stretched into my bedroom, basically. So now there's like a huge bed in there. And until recently, I had a couch in there too. I got rid of the couch, but only to fill it up with storage bins. So nice park. I do really want to get back into some stretching videos, but I've been working a lot of hours for paid clients, and the fact is I was losing money making YouTube videos because I don't get paid. Or I get such a tiny bit of money that, you know, the time that I'm spending doing YouTube videos, I'm actually losing money because I'm not working for my paid clients. So I have been limiting limiting the videos that I make and the time that I take and spend on them. I have a almost 2-hour video that I made where I was talking about the frustration I have over the fact that Wendi Adelson has been raising her children after she had their dad killed, in my opinion. And I made it personal, talking about my personal experiences with an unfit, abusive mother. But that's a very personal video, and when I do share it, it's going to just be for Patreon and YouTube members because of how personal it is. So it's like a personal journey, healing, more than a video for clicks, which I never make videos for clicks. I always make my genuine opinions. Anyway, I go back to wait for my son with my other son. And how could I forget to say, join me on my YouTube channel, Cat Love Dreaming Peach, and my Patreon, Cat Love Dreaming Peach, and my website, catlovedreamingpeach.com. catlovedreamingpeach.com.